Sit right here. There, isn't that a nice spot for you? My name is Miriam Körner. I'm a writer and illustrator. I write books for children and young adults. You're joining me here at Lake L'Orange, where I live with my husband and our 9 sled dogs. So I'm reading you today from Qaqavii. It's a novel for young adults, and it's set in Churchill, Manitoba, and Aviat Nunavut along the coast of Hudson Bay, and that's a place where I spent myself a lot of time at. And at the beginning of this book, 15-year-old Emmy Lou is being dragged by her mother to Churchill, Manitoba. It's the last place on earth she wants to be, and I'm just gonna start reading here right from chapter 1. The train rattles through an increasingly dull landscape of nothing really. Not a road, a house, or any sign of human life. Just trees, snow, train tracks, and a telephone line. At least I think that's what it is. The wires are held up by rotting poles, leaning low to the ground, as if they knew they didn't belong here. I sigh. Kitty looks up from her Via Rail magazine, as if my sighing is an invitation to talk, which it isn't. Kitty, by the way, is the person that, through the unavoidable fact that she gave birth to me, is legally entitled to be my mother. And yes, don't tell me that no halfway normal adult still goes by the name of Kitty at age 33. I know that. Emmy Lou. Kitty leans forward, trying to make eye contact. I look out the window. What? I want to say. But I haven't talked to her since we left Calgary. And that's 46 hours and 15 minutes ago, not counting time change. The longer we don't talk, the harder it is to break the silence. Are you hungry? She finally asks. It's a loaded question. If I say yes, we can go to the dining room and pretend that all is normal. But I'm tired of pretending. Come on, Emmy Lou, you have to talk to me eventually. She reaches over to ruffle my hair. I duck away. If you have to be like that, go ahead. I'll be in the dining car if you change your mind. Kitty throws the magazine on the seat next to me and slips on her shoes. She flings her hair out of her face and straightens her shoulders and walks down the aisle. She's lost weight in the last few weeks and she looks smaller, but that didn't stop her from packing up our stuff and dragging our suitcases down the stairs of our apartment building and into a new life. I stretch my legs out into Kitty's seat. It's still warm. I flip through her magazine and then, because there's nothing better to do, I count the telephone poles. It has the same effect as counting sheep. When I wake up, I wonder if they've secretly backed up the train while I was sleeping. Same muskeg, same patches of snow, same telephone poles. The Muskeg Express. That's what the people here call the train. I am not kidding. There's nothing express about this train. I could ride my bike faster if there was a road to ride a bike on, which there isn't. No road goes in or out of Churchill. Just one long, lonely, never-ending train track. I scan the landscape for anything alive. Not even a bird is sitting on the shrubs on the edges of the frozen ponds. Stunted spruce trees huddle together, tiny islands in an ocean of drifting snow. Grey clouds are hanging so low they're almost touching the ground. I imagine myself out there, walking alone in the bog. What if I met a bear, casually walking towards me, while I'm desperately trying to get unstuck from the muck? I turn away from the dreary landscape and catch a movement a few seats ahead of me. A boy's face is reflected in the window. He's about my age, I'd say. I wonder if he too is being dragged to a place where he doesn't want to be. I try to study his face, but it's hard to see in the faint reflection of the glass. His hair is dark, his cheeks are round, but not like a child's. His face has more edge to it. He looks like someone from a different country. Maybe, oh no, I am so stupid. I bet he's Inuit. Inuit? Is that how you say it? He's not the foreign one, I am. That's when reality totally sets in. We're actually going to the Arctic. I never really thought about it that way because it's still in Manitoba, after all. But why else would there be polar bears in Churchill? I shift in my seat, trying to get the light just right so I can see the reflection of the boy more clearly. I wonder what he sees when he looks out the window. Does it look different when you grew up here? Does he notice things that I don't see? The boy turns his head, For a split second, our eyes lock and I quickly turn away. Best not to make friends. I know we won't stay for long. It's only 3 days ago since I said goodbye to Maya, but it already feels like years. Drifters, Maya had called us, as I tried to cram all my belongings into the 2 worn-out, oversized suitcases. You know what you are, you and your mom? You're drifters, she said. Drifters. I kind of like how it sounds. I stopped packing and let myself flop onto my mattress, picturing myself adrift on a blue ocean, my bed a raft carrying me towards a faraway horizon. Earth to Emmy Lou, are you listening? Maya, plopping next to me. Me, opening my eyes, blinking. Above me, not the sun, but the glaring fluorescent white of the naked light bulb that illuminated my room for 18 months, 2 weeks and 5 days. A new record. You're going to stay in touch, right? Maya, leaning over to me. Right. Me, wriggling away. I never do. Stay in touch, I mean. Truth is, we're not drifting. We're running. No, not we. Kitty is running. I just don't know from what. Yeah, this is the opening scene, and I really had fun writing it because it kind of put me back on the time when I got the very first time to the Arctic or to Canada. I'm from Germany originally, and just seeing all these things with first eyes and experiencing the landscape as somewhat hostile and intimidating. But then she sees this boy in the scene, and she asks, does it look different when you grow up here? Does he notice things that I don't see? And I think that's kind of the key point of the novel, and kind of Emmy Lou explores this question. And in this next scene here, she actually gets to meet the boy again. His name is Barnabas, and he's training sled dogs for the Arctic quest with his grandpa. And Emmy Lou happens to run into them, and they were hooking up dogs, gets to go on a sled ride with them, and she kind of gets a new appreciation for the place she's at, and begins to train sled dogs with the grandpa and with Barnabas. And so Qaqavii is actually a young unruly puppy, and she kind of falls in love with him right from the beginning because he doesn't quite fit into the team. And I think pretty similar like Emmy Lou feels herself. You know, she's trying to run with everybody else, but somehow she keeps stumbling over her own feet, like Qaqavii stumbles over his lines. So in this scene here, the Barnabas and Emmy Lou are going out with the dogs on Hudson Bay. 133. I just have to find it. Chapter 11. Easy, Barnabas calls, but the dogs don't listen. Every single dog is loping as fast as it can. Qaqavii and Princess are letting out sharp, short barks, not being able to contain their excitement. Grumpy is snapping into the air, and Kakuk pulls so hard that he's running sideways. It's their first time crossing the river this winter. The last few runs they pulled with little enthusiasm around the same loop that run day after day. Now they can't wait to see what's ahead of them, like me. I'm sitting in the front, Barnabas behind me, and they're kind of sitting on a kamatik, which is kind of a sleigh, almost looks like a ladder, 2 long runners with cross pieces across, and they've got caribou fur laying over it, and so ahead of them is a fan hitch, 10 dogs lined out, kind of like a fan. Each dog has its own line. So the last few runs they pulled with little enthusiasm around the same loop that run day after day. Now they can't wait to see what's ahead of them, like me. I'm sitting in the front, Barnabas behind me. Old Ipili stayed home. They both walked across the river early this morning. The ice is early this year, the old man had said. Last weekend it already looked frozen, but Old Ipili did not let us go until now. It's been cold the last few nights, and it's even colder today. The dogs' faces are frosty, and steam escapes their mouths in tiny clouds. We bounce over snow-covered piles of ice along the shore, and then through a maze of rocks. Barnabas is trying to steer us clear of the obstacles by dragging his feet on either side of the sled. He's doing well, until there's a rock right ahead of us. The team splits. Half the fan turns left, the other right. I brace myself for the crash, but Barnabas jumps off, pulls the sled over, and throws himself back, all within seconds. How'd you do that? I ask. I don't know. Just did without thinking, or we would have smashed into that rock. Do you want to sit in the front again? No, no. Next time you jump, okay? He smiles. I know he's teasing me, but I sure wish I could do what he just did. Ahead of us, the ice becomes jagged again. From down here, where I'm sitting, it looks like a rugged mountain range, a mysterious kingdom impossible to describe. The dogs wind through the jumbled ice sculpted by the river, the sled's runners scraping noisily over the ice. After a short rise, the land dips down again. It feels a bit like being in a valley. There are big boulders along the trail, and small spruce trees grow where the land provides protection from the harsh wind. Does this place have a name? I mutter, through the scarf covering my mouth. Seahorse Gully, Barnabas says. That's where the Tuneet lived. The Tuneet? I ask. Halunat call them Dorset people, way before Inuit. I don't know much, only that the Tuneet lived in stone houses. They were giants, but friendly. Friendly giants? A fairy tale? What happened to them? I don't know. I never thought much about who lived in the Arctic until the talk with Lisa the other day. Lisa is a librarian that she has been visiting. I thought it was always Inuit, but now there are the Tuneet and the Dani and maybe even others that I don't know anything about, even though it's part of my country. Does Old Ipili know, or Elisapi? I ask. Our legends tell stories, but nobody really knows, not even Halunat scientists. Qaqavii, tighten up! Barnabas' attention turns to the dogs. You ask too many questions. Don't forget to watch your dog. I like how Barnabas calls Qaqavii my dog. I watch him and run, and he's less and less bouncy, but it's still easy to pick him out in the team. He gets distracted easily, stumbles over his own legs when he's not paying attention, and just can't help himself from being a puppy. Barnabas stops the team. Qaqavii runs to where the snow has drifted deep around a big boulder. He stuffs his head under the snow and sneezes. He tries to catch his breath, but sucks in more snow and has to sneeze again. He shakes his head as if he wants to shake the sneeze out of his nose, but it doesn't work. He sneezes again and again and again. Barnabas and I burst out laughing. You're such a puppy, I tell him and ruffle him behind the ears. Qaqavii sneezes into my face. Let's go, or we won't get to Button Bay and back before dark, Barnabas calls. I settle next to him on the sled. Can we go and see the giant stone houses, I ask? There's not much left, just stones where the walls used to be, but it's all under the snow. All the interesting things they found are long gone. They're all in museums. How far are we going? To my left, the land stretches as far as I can see. To my right, the trail turns towards the bay. Just across Button Bay, down there, and then up on the shore again. Barnabas points north, but I can't tell which is bay and which is land. All the way to the horizon, it's flat, empty. I turn my face away from the biting wind and the overwhelming space ahead. Once again, I feel as if someone is watching me. Out of the corner of my eye, I see someone standing on the other side of the gully. I turn around to get a better look, but all I see now is rock glowing in the late afternoon sun. And then the strangest thing happens. I can see myself and Barnabas and all the dogs, as if from above, like I was the rock looking down. And then I see shadows. No, not shadows. Actually, I don't really see anything. It's more a feeling. It feels like we're not alone, like there's a presence, but I can't make any sense of it. I hear children laugh, but when I try to focus on the sound, I realize it's the dogs whining. Without a command, they suddenly rise to their feet and strain in their lines. The trail leads downhill and the dogs gather speed. For a short second, it feels like we're flying, and then we're out on the sea ice. The jumble ice is bigger here, sheets of ice towering tall above us, as if frozen in time by a force bigger than I can understand. Whoa! Barnabas calls. But the dogs don't listen. There's no sign of tiredness. The dogs are straining in their harnesses and pulling hard, their noses close to the ground. Uh-oh, Barnabas says. We better head back. He sounds nervous. What? Why? I ask. Isn't the ice safe? Look, he says, pointing in the snow. I don't see anything. just snow and ice and dog tracks. Now look, polar bear. Where? I scream and hang on to Barnabas's arm. I don't know, he says. That's why we should go back. The dogs are chasing. See all the tracks? I let go of his arm and strain my eyes. Now I see it. Imprinted in the snow, there are round tracks, bigger than my outstretched hand, and oval ones bigger than a human foot. What are we waiting for? Go back! I yell. Barnabas smiles. Not so easy. My grandpa, he used dogs to hunt. They go crazy when they smell bear. They don't listen to me, Barnabas says. He drags his snow hook. It slows the dogs, but they won't stop. Left, left. Barnabas calls, but the dogs don't turn. I frantically look around, seeing bears lurking behind jambalayas. I try to stop the dogs, and you jump off and chase them left, okay? Wait, I yell. How? You just jump off and chase them left, like this. He stretches his arms out and makes a shooing movement as if he's trying to hurt a bunch of runaway chickens. Whoa, Barnabas yells at the dogs. The snow hook scrapes noisily over the ice, but the dogs keep moving. Jump off! Now? We're going too fast! Then suddenly the hook catches a crack in the ice. The sled comes to such a sudden stop, I'm catapulted off the sled. And startled by my involuntary flight exercise, the dogs turn away from me and turn left. The sled swings around and we're back on our old tracks. The dogs put their noses down and start chasing the scent the other way with the same enthusiasm. I scramble to my feet and run behind the team. Qaqavii bounces next to me, his line slack on the ground. Jump, Barnabas calls. I throw myself forward and grab the last crosspiece with my right hand. Snow is blasting in my face and crawling up my sleeve. My arm feels like it's being pulled out of its socket, but the thought of being left for bear food gives me a strength I didn't know I had. I hang on until Barnabas manages to stop the dogs. In less than a second, I'm on the sled. Not bad for a Kalona, he teases. I bite my lip hard to stop the tears from welling up and rub my shoulder. You okay? He asks. I nod. There he is! Barnabas sits backwards on the sleigh and pointing out into the bay. I see movement in the jambalayas, something not quite as white as the ice, a yellow shape with black nose pointing in our direction. Slowly he rises until he stands on his hind legs. Oh my God, he's got blood all over him. He's not the cute, fluffy tourist attraction I've seen in pictures. This is a skilled hunter, a killer at the top of the food chain. What's he doing? I whisper, my heart pounding like crazy. He can't see us, but he caught our scents. He's trying to figure out what we are. He can't catch up to us, can he? I watch the distance between us and the bear increase, and then I remember that he can run at a speed of 40 kilometers an hour. We're not even going half that speed. Barnabas, what's he doing? What's he doing now? I watch as the bear goes down on all four paws again. See all the blood on his nose and paws? He's got a seal or something. He won't bother us. She? Look. I sit on my knees, and then I see them. 2 cubs coming out from hiding behind their mother's back. I watch them until they blend in with the jambalayas. My heart still pounds like crazy, but my head feels light and my skin feels all tingly. In a good way. It's strange. I've never been so close to actually being eaten, and yet I have never felt so alive. The dogs follow their track back over the peninsula and through Seahorse Gully. I'm surprised when I realize we're back home. The town's noises seem far away. My mind is still out on Button Bay, seeing the cubs wrestle over a chunk of seal, watched over by a mama bear that would do anything to protect her cubs. I like this scene here because Emmy Lou is kind of starting to feel fascinated by the land, but also at the same time intimidated. It's almost kind of this push and pull. It's like wanting to go out further, wanting to know more, and then being scared of, what she's finding, and being scared also of not knowing. I mean, she's almost like a small child again, and Barnabas is taking care of her. And the question she asked here is, you know, she never really thought about who's living here. She just thought it was the Inuit, and she didn't know much about them. But now she starts to learn about the history, and I think that's something that Emmy Lou and I have very much in common, and it kind of motivated me to write this book. And when I came to Canada, I didn't know nothing about the people here or the land. And then I met my husband, and we have sled dogs, so we have our own team. And 1 year we heard about this Hudson Bay Quest, this race on the Arctic coast between Churchill, Manitoba and Aviat Nunavut, and we entered 2 teams in this race, and we kind of were like Emmy Lou. We couldn't tell, you know, apart where the land ended and where the bay began, and it just was this hostile landscape that was so utterly intimidating. But we were really fortunate because we were running with some of the finest Inuit mushers, and they just felt so comfortable on the land, being around the dogs, and the way they communicated with dogs. It's just something that just totally captivated me and made me go back, you know, again and again. And so I think Emmy Lou is just getting at this point here where I was after my first race. I was scared, but I also now it's because of the lack of my knowledge, and going back again and again and learning more about the people and about how they live on that land was just something, that to this day it's just been some of the greatest gifts, I think. And somehow I wanted to share that. I wanted to share that feeling, and I think that's what kind of inspired me to write this book. So I'm going to read you a scene now, further into the book, where she becomes a bit more drawn to the land and kind of starts to feel and accept the power of the land, and learning to like it in a different way. Towards the end of the book, and Emmy Lou actually is going to go in the big race that Barnabas and his grandfather was training for, and he couldn't enter the race, and last minute Emmy Lou has the opportunity to go out with Barnabas, and they just made it through a major blizzard, and now the blizzard has cleared and they're going back out onto the trail, and Barnabas discovers caribou tracks. Caribou, Barnabas says, pointing at U-shaped hoof prints crossing the trail. The dogs have sensed them too, picking up speed, chasing the scent. Lots of them. Barnabas grabs his rifle, then grins sheepishly. I forgot we're in a race. I forgot too. When we left, I felt rushed, hurried, always trying to figure out where the other teams were. Now it's just us, traveling at our own pace. The only goal is to get to Aviat, alive. I realize that even finishing this race is a big accomplishment, and I want to finish, not just to survive, but to finish this race. Emmy Lou. Barnabas elbows me and then points to the east. Caribou, a whole herd of them. Running toward our trail, their heads held high, balancing the weight of their antlers, their hooves barely touching the ground, like a dance captured in slow motion. The caribou notice us. The same time the dogs notice them. The caribou stop, as if they're not sure if they should come closer or run. The dogs throw their weight into their harnesses and lunge forward. Easy, 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 Barnabas calls, scraping the snow hook. When the dogs come close, the caribou take off, bouncing in great leaps, quickly disappearing to the west. The dogs turn to chase after them, and it takes a while before we have them back on the trail. Just then another group appears. Barnabas secures the snow hook, and we walk up to the team, making them lie down. While we watch hundreds of caribou cross our paths. I feel goosebumps on my skin. There's something surrounding the caribou I can't quite understand. The animals move steadily, setting one foot in front of the other, like they're in a long and slow procession. But they're not slow. It's almost like time runs differently for them. I don't know how to describe it. It's like I can see through a window into a world that runs parallel to ours. As if the caribou's presence here in our world was only temporary, a crossing place of sorts, where our world and theirs collide. Females with last year's calves, Barnabas says. How do you know? Look at their antlers, they're small and the calves are smaller than the females. They will chase them away soon so they can give birth to the new calves. Here? My eyes glide over endless tundra. Further north, they go inland, way up to Kaminoyak Lake. What do they do in a storm? I don't know, maybe lay down, wait? The last stragglers hurry behind the group. In the distance we see a long line of caribou walking single file, ghostly in their silent procession. We walk back to the Kamotik and I remember old Ipili saying that the caribou are like ghosts. They appear out of nowhere, fill up the land and then disappear again. I strain my eyes, but as far as I can see, there are no caribou. You see any trail markers? Barnabas asks. I look around. No? You? I guess the caribou ran them over. I'm not sure if we haven't even are on the trail. So many caribou tracks. I feel panic rising. First the storm, now lost. I picture us from above, a tiny speck on a gigantic sheet of white paper. We just keep going north, stick to the coastline. Nonala must be close. But I start and then I hold my breath. Out of nowhere, it seems, a caribou appears right in front of us, and then another one. We're behind a small rise, and they don't see us until they're just touching the lead dogs. Then there are dozens of them. The group parts as they run around us, nearly touching our sled with their big white hooves as they run. There's a clicking sound as they flail their legs, but it doesn't come from their hooves hitting the ground. It comes from inside of them, their own bones singing as they walk. The click, 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 click is all around us, and yet it's strangely silent at the same time. No snorting or grunting, just clicking. The dogs go crazy, turning in circles, chasing caribou to the end of the line, then turning back to snap at another caribou. And then the clicking sound is gone. They have passed, and I watch them until they're out of sight. How can they disappear in a land that seems so flat? How do they know where to go? They have no trail, no map. And then I understand. In the grander scheme of things, we can't get lost. To the east is the flow edge. To the southwest, the tree line. The communities are along the coast. It's just a matter of traveling, of not giving up, of keeping calm and moving. But what if there's another storm? What if we run out of food? What if a polar bear finds us? What if it breaks through the ice? Too many what ifs. Emmy Lou kind of inherited my curiosity about the land and the far northern places and the Inuit people in the Arctic, and that running with some of those mushers was just was almost like, I felt like almost like stepping back in time. One of the mushers especially was the late Philip Qaqavii, and Old Ipili in the book is very much like the real life character and my experiences with him. When I was racing, I realized I was never really alone. I always had old Philip behind me, and he would never pass, and he didn't speak any English, but it took me a long time before I realized he was actually looking out for me. He was making sure that the Haluna, the girl that knew so little, wasn't gonna die out there on the land. And there was this one point where our teams were running parallel, and I was just watching him, and he just is all calm, and he gets his tea out, and he's sipping tea while he's running the dogs. And I think that's when I realized that this place is not a wilderness, or it's not a forest to measure your own strengths against. This place is home. It's home. It's home to the people that live on this land. And I think that was a big realization and switch for me to to try to understand that land in a different way. And so Emmy Lou comes from a place, where she never really had a place of her own, really. She was being moved around from place to place to place, and she always tried to fit in, never felt that she was fitting in. And here she starts to feel a sense of belonging to a place, but she also feels a sense of people belonging to a place. And I think that's kind of what draws her into being with Barnabas and being with his family that have this very, very strong connection to place, something that she never had. So, and of course, there's also the dynamic with her mother in the book. So, you know, the things kind of start to get a little edgy for the mother again, and things are threatening for Emmy Lou to fall apart, and the mother is going to move again. So, and I think that's the question is going to be, you know, is Emmy Lou going to be able to stay in the Arctic, and is her sense of belonging stronger than her mother's need to keep moving? And so that you do have to find out when you borrow this book from the library. Okay, well, thank you. It was a pleasure to read to an audience that I don't know. So I didn't realize if anybody was falling asleep or bored. That was actually quite relaxing, and being out here in the sun. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the reading. Thank you. You're not worried, eh?